If you're around 40, there's a good chance you've had a quiet moment recently. Maybe late at night, maybe sitting in your car after work. And the thought that showed up was something like, am I where I'm supposed to be by now? Today, we're going to answer that with actual numbers. Not to create panic, but because knowing where you actually stand is the first step to making a plan that works. And stick around, because what the people who are ahead actually did differently is probably not what you think. It's one of those things that sounds almost too simple, but it changes everything once you see it. Okay, let's get into it. According to data from Vanguard and the Federal Reserve's most recent survey of consumer finances, the median retirement savings for Americans between the ages of 35 and 44 is around $45,000. Let that land for a second. Not $450,000, not $150,000, $45,000. Now the average, which gets pulled way up by a small number of very wealthy people, sits closer to $141,000. But the median is the more honest number. It tells you what the person right in the middle of the population actually has. And that number is $45,000. So if you're 40 years old and you have $45,000 saved, you are exactly average. Not behind, not failing. Exactly where the middle of the country is. And if you have less than that, you are in very large company. Millions of people are in the same position. People who work hard, people who are responsible, people who are doing their best with what life has thrown at them. The numbers aren't meant to shame anyone. They're meant to give you an honest starting point, because you can't navigate without knowing where you are on the map. Here's something worth understanding before we go any further. The reason most 40-year-olds haven't saved as much as the textbooks say they should have is not laziness. It's not poor discipline. It's not that they don't care about their future. It's that the last 15 to 20 years have been genuinely hard in ways that previous generations didn't face. Think about what someone who is 40 today actually lived through in their 20s and 30s. They graduated into one of the worst job markets in modern history, the 2008 financial crisis. They entered adulthood carrying more student loan debt than any generation before them. They faced a housing market that made it almost impossible to build equity the way their parents did. And then just when things started stabilizing, a global pandemic hit and scrambled everything again. The goalposts kept moving, and the standard financial advice, save 15% of your income starting at 22, assumed a kind of stability that most people simply didn't have access to. So if you're 40 and you feel behind, the honest answer is that the game was genuinely harder for your generation than the advice accounted for. That doesn't mean the situation is hopeless, not even close. But it does mean the shame and guilt that a lot of people carry around this stuff is largely undeserved. Now, for context, let's talk about what financial planners typically suggest people have saved by 40. The most commonly cited guideline is 3 times your annual salary saved by age 40. So if you earn $60,000 a year, the benchmark would be $180,000 saved by now. Most people hear that number and immediately feel like they've failed. But here's what that benchmark doesn't tell you. It assumes you started contributing to a retirement account in your early 20s with no interruptions, no job loss, no medical emergency, no period where you had to choose between paying rent and investing, no student loans eating half your paycheck for a decade. For most real people, that kind of uninterrupted savings path simply didn't happen. What tends to matter far more than hitting an arbitrary benchmark at exactly age 40 is the direction you're moving in right now. Are you saving something? Is that something growing? Do you have a rough plan? Those 3 things, even in small amounts, put you in a better position than the majority of people who are simply hoping things will work out. Here's the part that most people don't realize. And it genuinely changes the picture. If you're 40 today and you have very little saved, you still have roughly 25 years before the traditional retirement age of 65. 25 years is a long time when compound interest is involved. Let's say you start putting away $400 a month right now. That's $13 a day, roughly the cost of lunch. At a historical average market return of around 8% annually, in 25 years that grows to approximately $380,000. starting from zero. At 40, just $400 a month. Now add whatever you already have saved on top of that. And factor in that most people's incomes tend to grow through their 40s, meaning those monthly contributions often increase over time too. The picture starts looking very different from the one that the benchmark number painted. What tends to work for people who get ahead from this point is simple. They pick a number they can consistently contribute each month, even if it feels small, and they automate it so it happens without requiring a decision every time. That consistency over time is what actually builds wealth. Not a single big moment, not a windfall, just the quiet accumulation of regular contributions that never stop. So here's the part I promised you at the start. And I want to be honest, it's not what most finance videos will tell you. The thing that actually separates people who are significantly ahead at 40 isn't the investment strategy they chose. It isn't even how much they earned. It's how they related to losing money. Here's what that means practically. Most people, when the market drops, feel something shift inside them. A pull toward doing something, moving the money somewhere safer, pausing contributions until things settle down. It feels responsible. It feels like protecting what you've built. But the data tells a completely different story. The people who came out of 2008 and 2020 significantly wealthier than they went in were almost universally the ones who did nothing, who kept contributing, who let the drop happen and trusted that the recovery would follow, because it always has. That sounds easy to say. It is genuinely hard to do, because every instinct you have when you're watching your savings shrink on a screen is telling you to act. The counterintuitive reality is that the people who are ahead financially didn't get there by making more moves. They got there by making fewer, by resisting the very human urge to respond to market noise, and letting time do the heavy lifting instead. That's the thing nobody tells you. Wealth at 40 isn't usually built by people who are smarter or more strategic. It's built by people who were better at doing nothing when everything in them wanted to do something. So, where do you actually stand? If you're at or above $45,000 saved at 40, you're at or above the median. You're not behind. You're in the middle of the pack. And with consistent contributions from here, the path forward is genuinely solid. If you're below that, you're in company with millions of people who are hardworking, responsible, and doing their best. The gap isn't permanent. It's closable. And the time to start closing it is now. Not when things feel more stable. Not when you get the next raise. Not after the holidays. Because here's the honest truth about waiting. Every month that passes is a month of compound growth that doesn't happen. Not in a dramatic, your life is ruined way. Just quietly, in the background, an opportunity that doesn't come back. What tends to work is picking one concrete step today, not a complete financial overhaul, just one thing. Open the account if you don't have one. Increase your contribution by even 1% if you do. Set up an automatic transfer for whatever amount feels manageable, even if that amount feels embarrassingly small right now. Small and consistent beats large and occasional every single time. The average 40-year-old in 2026 has around $45,000 saved. Most people are behind where the textbooks say they should be, and most people got there through circumstances that were genuinely outside their control. But here's what's also true. 25 years of consistent saving and investing, even starting from very little, produces real, meaningful wealth. The math works. The time is there. And the tools available today, retirement accounts, index funds, automatic contributions, make it easier to get started than it has ever been at any point in history. You're not too late. You're not too far behind. You're just at a moment where a decision, even a small one, makes a real difference. Make it today. If this helped, subscribe. I put out honest, straightforward breakdowns like this every week. And if you know someone who's around 40 and quietly wondering where they stand, send this to them. It might be exactly what they needed to hear today. See you in the next one.